Wilbur, you forget yourself. Quackity, you forget where you stand next to me. You are in my shadow. Act like it. Maybe it's not a coincidence that every single idea you've ever had has failed under your guidance. You are a walking second-place medal.
Was it the best you ever had? Was it the worst you never know? I try to tell you what I think and play it up like it's a joke. No, my surprise, yes, it's like it's up to anything for you.
Can we just acknowledge how exponentially more impressive, which I did not realize was possible, Wilbur's like trash talk gets when he has the chance to plan it out?
Oh yeah.
Wilbur has time to pre-think his insults, and all of a sudden
That and Wilbur, even while being a singular individual, does a very good job at getting people's characterizations. And I know that it says
yeah, for
below that,
sure.
like, he consulted Quackity and Ranboo on, like, you know, the dialogue and stuff, but it doesn't say that he consulted either Tubbo or Tommy. And my God, is his Tommy impression on those?
Yes.
Tommy was waiting for him at the bottom of the restaurant, idly pouring sand between his two hands. Wilbur, how was it? He asked, standing up and walking towards him. Did you steal his eyes? I would have stolen his eyes, but I'm built different.
It's so on point.
If you think about the amount of time that Wilbur and Tommy spend together, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. No, those two are basically like...
And Wilbur's written Tubbo before. Wilbur wrote Tubbo's character for the election, like the spy version of Tubbo. And
yeah, that's true.
And I think Tubbo even said himself he would be okay with whatever Wilbur came up with for his character because he has that much trust in Wilbur.
I really like all the storylines Wilbur makes. I think Wilbur's like the best writer. I think he's such a great writer. Like everything he does is so cool. So whenever Wilbur asks me to take part in lore, it's like an instant yes. Like he doesn't even have to ask. Just.
And he loves what Wilbur writes.
Yeah.
I do just want to point out just how many of these, if they were in a live stream, would be new quotable moments, like it was never meant to be.
Oh, I know.
Flag. Like we have you are in my shadow, act like it.
Oh yes. Oh, where was the one of or an axe or a pickaxe?
Oh, my wisdom. Wilbur was standing again. My wisdom! Well, how about you crack open my head with a meat tenderizer and scoop it all out? Wilbur also cracked a wry smile. Or a pickaxe?
Just the amount of Wilbur digs at Quackity were fantastic.
Oh yeah, it was brutal and it was amazing. I was very impressed. And I do think it does have relevance with the shift in genre. I think that Wilbur was able to pack in a lot more to a smaller amount of time because he was able to take the time to think about it instead of having to come up with it on the spot.
If it was on stream, even if it's prepared, if you know you're going to deliver that line, you don't know if people are going to speak over you, you don't know if you're going to be able to actually find the time. So when you actually do it, and sometimes it's even just improv, it's way more impactful in a way. In a book, you admit that you have time to think about it and that your words need to be impactful.
Because yeah, that, you know, you're in my shadow, act like it. Is absolutely it's a white flags moment.
If you do not surrender, I want to see white flags outside your base by tomorrow at dawn, or you are dead.
People would absolutely be talking about it as long as I have been talking about that white flags speech. But because we don't get to hear them say it and we don't get to, you know, people aren't, it's not out there, it's not on a video. The only video it's on is Wilbur's stream, and it's him who's acting it all out, him who's having to do all of the dramatic timing himself. You know, we don't get that back and forth, that energy that allows it to build and build until you get that perfect line. It's
There's
not everything,
it's
something lost. It's not everything it could have been. And that makes me a little sad, not gonna lie.
I think it's a really good exercise to just think about white flags because that's a great example. If that had been like a written message left to the Lamambergians instead of Dream recording himself shouting that at the camera. Like, I don't think people would have been talking about it.
No,
you know?
It would have had a completely different impact.
Yeah, no one talks about the declaration of war of, you know, Sometimes you just gotta kill some people, you know? No one really talks
Oh my
about
God.
that.
But Wilbur's reading of the
Family over
Independence book gets quoted all the time.
Yeah, that gets coded so much.
On the other hand, the sentence Rambu said, Rambu smiled, Rambu jumped, we would have never gotten that in a live stream.
Absolutely, and that
Yeah.
is so powerful.
So powerful. And like, you know, even Rambu's faceless. We've never seen him smile.
Yep.
Like, we just couldn't get that. Even if Rambu the streamer had a face cam and was streaming, we wouldn't have gotten that detail.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
So
true.
it definitely goes both ways, for sure.
Everyone had very mixed beliefs about me uploading my thing. Apparently everyone really latched onto the fact I wanted to put it onto Archive of Our Own, which I thought was a really funny thing to latch onto because I just said that as an example. I think I said Wattpad the time before. I don't fucking know where it's going to go. It might just end up as a Google Doc, but it's a short story and it's going to go somewhere.
How many characters does a story need to be canon for it to not be fanfiction? And what is the true definition of fanfiction anyway? Is it something that's, you know, not canon to the story, or can fanfiction be canon?
Well, let's look it up. Okay, Merriam-Webster. Fanfiction is stories involving popular fictional characters that are written by fans and often posted on the internet. That's it.
And
He's
usually,
not a fan.
usually it's implying that since it's not written by the creator, it's not considered to belong to the production that's making the story. But this does belong to the creator.
No, but is it canon to the rest of the Dream SMP sort of thing?
We don't know yet.
Exactly.
Only time will tell. I think
we'll
we
see.
can safely say that some elements definitely are. Like, I think we now can account for one of Rambu's canon deaths, for example. You know.
I don't know
Yeah.
about that. I'm
Yeah, no, I
gonna
don't
wait
know.
until Ranbu canonizes that himself before I say that it's definite. Like right now, I'm gonna keep in like as a personal headcanon that that's true. But especially considering Wilbur did say at the beginning, you know, it's up to audience interpretation, which timeline is canon to the greater story, etc., etc. It's just canon for Wilbur, at least currently.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, well, that's kind of like one of the point that like people wanted to talk about is the fact that it's a fanfiction and it's still canon. So technically, it's not a fanfiction.
It's like canon fiction.
Yeah, I don't really know what exactly to call it, because, I mean, it's posted on AO3, which is generally where fan fiction is posted, and, like, I guess you could say that Wilbur is a fan of his own content, thus making it fan
That's
fiction,
amazing.
but it's also by, like, the main creator of that character, and it's canon to that character. But it's also not necessarily his server, and we don't know if it's canon to the rest of the characters. It's in a very odd spot, and I don't know, you know? It's interesting.